President Biden and Republican senators have agreed to keep negotiating a bipartisan coronavirus relief package, that following a White House meeting last night. But the president made it clear he'll keep pushing for a large relief measure, even if he has to bypass the Republicans. With the latest from Washington, D.C. is Bloomberg Government's Emily Wilkins. Hey, Emily, President Biden wants about 3 times as much in the bill as the Republicans are offering. Just about $600 billion from Republicans, $1.9 trillion from President Biden and the Democrats. Why is there and how is there such a large gap in these proposals?
Well, a couple different things here. I mean, mostly it's because Republicans are worried about adding to the national debt, the national deficit. That's why they're trying to keep these amounts for these stimulus bills a little bit smaller. It's very similar to what we saw last time when Democrats were pushing, I think, a several $trillion-dollar bill. Republicans wanted much lower. The bill that the Republicans have put forward, they do see it as a compromise. They see it as including a number of things that Biden has in his bill, those individual checks for American, extending unemployment insurance supplementals, but they're scaled down. They're a little bit smaller in most areas. And so I think Republicans are offering this as a starting point for a negotiation. Biden has certainly taken it that way. They will continue to negotiate, but also very much on the table is that option for Democrats to simply pass this stimulus by themselves. It's something that we're seeing those Democratic majority leaders in the Senate go ahead and tee up this week. But I think at this point, either option is still on the table.
Okay, so let's go through some of these options here. If Democrats do indeed try to do this without Republican support, what position does that put President Biden in? I mean, here he was extending sort of an olive leaf and inviting 10 Republican senators to the White House.
Sure. And Biden has said throughout his campaign during his inaugural that he wants to be a bipartisan president, that he wants to work with Republicans. He wants to bring unity back to Washington. And this is sort of his first big test to do so. And it is in an issue where you do see a little bit of bipartisan compromise, certainly more in this particular field than you might see in, say, immigration policy or in raising the minimum wage. And so there's a question here. If Biden can't get this done at this point, if he can't work with Republicans, what does that mean about the next 2 years and the rest of his administration? On the other hand, of course, if Biden does negotiate, if he does go down in the amount of funding that the federal government will be providing, there are Democrats who are saying, hey, we're concerned, the American people are struggling, small businesses are struggling. We need to do what we can to help them. And the Republican proposal simply doesn't go far enough. So unfortunately, I think if you're President Biden, you're not going to be able to pull off a particular win-win on this one.
What about when it comes to the size of those payments, direct payments to Americans? I mean, $2,000 is what many Democrats campaigned on, especially at the special election in Georgia. And we saw widespread support for that among Democrats and even, in fact, some Republicans supporting that.
Absolutely. I mean, the 2 Democratic senators from Georgia, Senator Raphael Warnock and Senator Jon Ossoff, they reminded their colleagues in a phone call that whole $2,000 checks was part of the reason why they were able to win and to carry Georgia. And so you see in Biden's plan, it's technically $1,400. That would be the $2,000 minus the $600 that's already been sent out in stimulus. Biden does have that in his plan. Republicans would reduce that to only $1,000, but they would also reduce the number of people that check would be sent to. Under their proposal, if you're an American, an individual, and you make $40,000, you would get the full amount. And then a little bit after that, if you make up to $50,000, you get a piece of it. But anyone making more than $50,000 per year as an individual would not be receiving any stimulus under the Republicans' plan.
Bloomberg Government's Emily Wilkins. Emily, thanks so much for your time. Great as always to have you join us on Quick Take.
The biggest stories the moment they happen from around the globe. Subscribe to Bloomberg Quick Take now for insight in an instant.